This is Brother Jamal coming at you again with another video. This is part two of the time. We did part one earlier today. We wanted to bring you part two of this segment. It's called The Time. And so this segment is just want to kind of do this real short and brief. As I said, we'll probably bring you some segments of the time. As I said, this is part two. The part that I did today on part one, I talked about the coronavirus that's in China. And I said, and I just want to give you a little background history information about what I talked about earlier today. On, as I said, we did a podcast today. It was entitled Part One. It was entitled The Time and what was happening. And the background information I want to give you as I kind of set the stage for this. I don't know if you're aware of this or if you know about this or not. In China, where the colonial virus, where the virus is at, one of the things that has happened there has been going on for quite some time. They have a large Muslim community in China. And so what has been going on, because this has not been made public, the media, nobody has picked this story up. I saw some pieces on Facebook here and there trying to encourage people to speak out about it and talk about it. But what has been going on in China for quite some time, they put a large number of the Muslims in concentration camps. They put the men, the women, the kids, older people, young people, they put all of them in concentration camps. On top of that, they were raping and doing all kind of degrading things to the women in China. Also, they were feeding them pork in the concentration camps. They were not allowing them to pray at all. Hold Juma, pray, anything. They wasn't allowed them to do anything. So, we know that Allah can bring about any kind of calamity, any kind of hardship, any kind of difficult when He chooses to bring it. And so we believe part of the punishment on China is that everybody, the way they got on the sisters by wearing hijab, by covering themselves, wearing the niqab, now everybody in China is covering themselves. Everybody's wearing a cover over their mouth. It's the very thing that they did to the Muslims. Allah has turned it around and put it on them. So, and I know people don't look at it like this. That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to look at it like this. But the truth about the matter is, when people mistreat people, when people do these horrible things like the Chinese government, the Chinese authorities did, then this is like Allah reaping havoc on that country, on that whole society. That's what that's like. Saying to say that, let me move on into the other area I want to move in. Back in the 1980s, when we had KUCB radio station, myself and Sister Hada Shah Mehran, we did so many shows. And I tell you what's interesting about the time, and we call this broadcast The Time, because the shows that we did in 1980, 1981, 1982, even the late 80s, all of a sudden in today's time, I see some of those same things that are occurring, some of those same things are happening. For example, we did a number of shows on the United States and how they were going to control the population. The U.S. government actually, how they were going to control the population, how they were going to put into place a population control that would also make it U.S. policy. And so this goes all the way back to the 1950s when during the time of Dwight Eisenhower was president, during the time when George Bush, the father, was the president. This goes all the way back to that time. And what we have to understand, I know we don't see the parallel or may not see the connection of what's going on today in today's time and in the world. When we look at the parallel of the wealthy elite families in this country, I'm talking about the Rockefellers, I'm talking about the DuPonts, I'm talking about the Mellons, the Harriman, the Bushes, all of those families, which is considered to be the wealthy elite established families. These are the ones that come up with this whole idea of population control, zero population, putting policies in to control the population to say in a certain country so many kids are only allowed, a family is only allowed to have so many kids. These wealthy elite families, they are the ones that put in these population control, zero control. They put in all of these policies to put control on especially people of color, people non-white, in how many kids they can have, because what these people have realized, the birth rate for people of color is overriding the whites in this country and throughout the world. The people of color are having so many kids that it's outrunning and it's outnumbered. So to control that population control, to put in a policy to say that in the Muslim countries, in the African countries, even here in the U.S., they put in these sterilization programs. They put in certain Planned Parenthood. They put in certain programs to make sure that women of color do not continue to have a large amount of kids, because it's overpopulating the society. It's overpopulating the world. Where they try to put in on population control, zero population, where they are beginning to say there's not enough resources, there's not enough certain things to go around to feed everyone. And all this is about, once again, all this is about population control. That's all this is about. So when we see what we know from history is that they have put into place population control because the U.S. government and U.S. policy wants to depopulate the society, want to have less people in the world. And oftentimes what happens when you have a situation like this virus, it begins to depopulate the world, because so many people throughout the world, not only in this country, but in so many of the countries around the world, they began to have a case where so many people in the population, a large portion of the population, began to die off. So that's part of the fix that these people get into in talking about how the population can be controlled by the U.S. government and the U.S. policies. And they spread that throughout the world. Once again, we're talking about the wealthy elite families. I'm talking about the Harrimans, the Bush, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Mellons, all of these wealthy elite families. They are the ones that have the influence They have the money, and they put into place these programs behind the scenes. They put these programs in place. Like I said, this is something that's been going on since 1950. I don't want you to think they just started because of this virus. This is something that they've had in place since the 1950s. Anytime that they see a case, a situation where so many babies are being born that's of color, when they see where they're being outnumbered, too many babies of color is being born, whether it be black, Hispanic, Asian, any other nationality, any other African country, when they see that begin to happen, and it's been going on, this trend has been going on for quite some time, they have put in the U.S. Government, and so many of these programs have put in a policy to depopulate the world. And if it's not wars where people, so many people are killed off or dies, oftentimes you can see a sickness, you can see a virus. Oftentimes these things come up. I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of the destiny. I know that. He controls what has happened, what's happening now, and what is going to happen in the future. And also at the same time, man puts things in place. Just like it has happened in the past, it's still happening today. So once again, I want you to understand that this whole idea of America putting into place government policies to depopulate the world. That means cut down on the population. And that can be all over the world, not only here in the United States, but outside the United States, where the resources and all of this becomes smaller. It becomes consumed by a certain group of people. And so these people have realized that the birth rate for women of color is increasing, is doubling, and the birth rate for non-whites is dwindling. It's going down. It's not keeping up to par. It's not keeping up to with the women of color having babies. So what they start doing in the African countries and the Muslim countries, they began to put into place in those countries, working with the governments in those countries to get a birth control, some kind of policy to say that the women in those African countries and those Muslim countries, they have to have a control and population control on the size of family and how many kids they have. This is the kind of policies that you see them put in place. So many of the African countries, so many Muslim countries have put those kind of policies in place because all this come from the European countries, it come from the United States, and the policies and the government programs that they put in place, they originate those programs here in the U.S. and they spread abroad. This is what happens. So once again, we're talking about the time. This is part 2 of what's happening. And inshallah, we pray to Allah that you have got something out of this this podcast, something that you can benefit from. And inshallah, we'll continue to try to bring you these podcasts and try to continue to bring you the show. Once again, this is part 2. It's called The Time. I've been your host, Brother Jamal.